You are listening to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast, where we take an all-in, leave no doubt approach to all things adventure hunting. From the big woods to the high country. How about that? Let's learn together as we discuss with our expert guests on what it takes to be successful in the backcountry. I'm your host, Weston Homa. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. This week I got on Mark Livesay. So if you have ever looked up anything involving e-scouting for Western hunting, I bet you this name has popped up. So Mark is a great resource in the industry. He has a ton of content on YouTube and on his website, treelineacademy.net, involving e-scouting. So I've been listening to Mark, watching his stuff for a while now. And yeah, he puts out some really great stuff, not just for the e-scouting, but just different tactics and things like that for Western hunting. So definitely go check out treelineacademy.net. He also has a podcast now out with Peaks, the vodcast that's on Peaks' YouTube channel. A lot of good information there. In this episode, we do get into all things spring bear hunting. So Mark breaks down the different phases of spring bear hunting that he has. We go into all the opportunities there are, especially just over the counter in some Western states. I think it's a great opportunity for somebody to get out and hunt the West. We go into different tactics. And then we talk about Mark's new course that he just dropped, his bear hunting course on his website. Definitely go check that out. A lot of great stuff. And I think this was a great episode. I'm leaving for spring bear here, the time of this recording, in about a week or so. I think I'm going to go back and even listen to this episode myself, just to make sure I really hone in on some of those nuggets that Mark talked about. Other things going on, like I said, getting all packed up for spring bear, getting gear ready, thrown in this bear hunt right in the middle of my big marathon prep. So next month, I'm running Grandma's Marathon in Minnesota, trying to get 2 hours, 50 minutes. That's the goal, and trying to make sure I get to Boston next year. So feeling good there. Big running mileage this week. And then I guess it's kind of like a break while I'm bear hunting for a week, even though we'll be hiking around a lot, I'm sure, but all good stuff there. So about 6 weeks out from that, which then means I'm about 12 weeks out from Eastern States 100 miler. So that's in early August. So I'm kind of like training for both at the same time a little bit. Just so stoked for that one too. I just love these big races and challenges and adventure hunts, and I'm just so stoked. So that's what's going on for me. I did want to mention one more thing here. So if you're listening from back east or the Midwest and you're listening to learn more about Western hunting, I wanted to mention here, so Clint Casper, another name in the industry, you can find his writings in different hunting magazines and all over. So Clint Casper and Martin Chagnovich, who's another big name in the industry. He's big on social media. I think he's out from Utah. They're putting on a camp in Ohio. It's called Waypoints to Western Hunting. It's in Carrollton, Ohio, June 7th, June 8th. So I believe that's Saturday and Sunday. I'll put the link if you want to buy a ticket in the notes in this episode. I'm a huge learner. I love reading books, podcasts, and then going to a camp like this, I think is great to learn more about Western hunting, if this is something you're really trying to do and take serious. I bought my ticket. I'm going. Like I said, June 7th, June 8th, Carrollton, Ohio. You can learn from these guys. They know what they're talking about. Looks like it's going to be a great camp. So I just wanted to mention that here. If you have any questions on it, let me know. I'll put, like I said, the link in the show notes here. But if you follow Martin or Clint on Instagram, you can see the link in their bios to buy your ticket there. So just wanted to plug that. I think that's it for this week. Hope you guys enjoy this episode with Mark. Let's have a great week. Let's leave no doubt. Let's work as hard as we can. Let's get better every day. And let's run the rack, everybody. All right. Enjoy this one with Mark. We'll catch you on the next one. Welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. Today I got on Mark Livesay. So if you have ever gone online, gone on the computer, and search anything involving e-scouting for Western hunting, anything like that, I guarantee you're going to see this guy's names pop up. So Mark is a great resource in the industry, not only just for e-scouting, but just great content out there on YouTube and everything, just for all Western hunting, especially spring bear. And I think that's what we're going to get into here today. So Mark, how's it going? How's the knee?
It's good. The knee is good. I wish it was my knee because I had a meniscus repair, maybe 2 years ago, and I can't even tell which knee it was. They did such a good job. And but this one we were in Canada wolf hunting, and I tore two of the quad attachments in my knee. So it's not really my knee; it's the quad muscle tearing loose. So I tore two quad muscles, two quad sections, and I had surgery about 4 weeks ago. And I just got my staples out about a week ago, and I'm in a straight brace for 8 weeks. I'm on a 4 to 6 month recovery on this thing. It's like crazy long. I have not been able to bend it yet, so I don't know if it even is going to bend.
She'll bend.
So it'll bend. And so I'm just waiting and kind of missing spring bears. At first I was thought, it's not so bad, Mark. One bear season out of all the ones you've done. And last year I went nuts. So I think I hunted 50 days bears. It was crazy number of days. And all over the place. And this year, I'm not going to do any. And I thought it was no big deal. Well, I don't know. It's May 1st. I'm looking outside. I'm like, oh man. And I'm seeing all these guys are sending me pictures of these dead 6-foot bears. And it's kind of depressing at the moment.
No, we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
We probably wouldn't be recording this podcast if bear season was on. So you're getting ready to go bear hunting. Let me back up. So I just put my application in. Last week for Pennsylvania elk. So
there you go. Okay.
One of these days, maybe the gods will shine on me and give me that tag. I'd love to do it. They say it's a pretty easy elk hunt, but I still would like to do it at some point in my life. I've been putting in for a long time, ever since they started doing non-resident, I think. And I kind of do a lot of the Midwest ones and Kentucky, all of them. And it's just it's a lottery ticket, so to speak, but it'd be fun if you ever drew one. So I did do that. I thought I would say that since you said you were from Pennsylvania. And Bo Montanak, or I think that's how you pronounce his name. Martonic.
Yeah, talked to him a few times loosely.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
he's from the northern part
of the state. He's my other connection in Pennsylvania. I don't have many, but I've been on his podcast a couple of times, and I really like his stuff. And he kind of geeks out on e-scouting almost as much as I do. And he put some good content out there too. I really like Bo. So anyway, that's pretty much the limit. Now I will say, of all of my Treeline Academy subscribers and stuff, I have a lot of Pennsylvania. Dude, there's a lot of elk hunters in Pennsylvania. We've even thought we have these elk tours, and we get request after request after request to come to Pennsylvania, and we haven't made the decision to do that yet, but it surprises me how many. There's quite a few guys that come all the way.
So I know, and I'd be one of those guys that'd be like, hell yeah, and I'd definitely go. I know Dan Staten used to do elk shapes out here, and then I don't think he has recently though. And then I know, Clint Casper? He's doing a camp in Ohio with Martin. I don't know how to say his last
name.
Cragg
or
whatever.
Cragg, yeah. He's one of the Peaks. He's a Peaks guy, yeah.
Yeah. Them two guys are doing a Western hunting camp thing here in June in Ohio. And I don't know. Yeah, we especially the Pennsylvania guys, seems like so many times I'm out west and it's like run into a guy, oh, we're not from here, we're non-residents. Where are you from? Pennsylvania. Get the hell out of here.
I know. It's like you guys are invading us. We're going to put a limit on Pennsylvania non-resident tags, I think, in Montana.
I think we are the densest state as far as how many people hunt in the state. Yeah. It's like us in Wisconsin maybe, but I don't know. Maybe we get the bug.
I've ran into quite a few. So when is your bear hunt coming? When are you going bear hunting? So let's talk about this kind of something that relates to what you're doing.
Sure, yeah. And that's what I want to get into today, spring bear. I think it's great Western opportunities with tags hitting hard to draw and things like that. So, take it from me. I'm from back east and going to go kind of last minute here over the last month. Connected with some guys that I know in Idaho. I'm leaving, and it's not like I picked this dates for any specific reason. Otherwise, I had only I have most September off PTO for work. I was like, how can I make a spring bear hunt? Okay, I can pick up Memorial Day. That's one. That's basically the reason why I'm going towards the end of May here. But I'm leaving the 22nd, coming back the 29th or something like that. So definitely would call that. Would you call that the later part of spring bear?
So May 22nd.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be. There's a couple challenges you're going to face on May 22nd. There's a lot of bears out May 22nd. The problem, I'm not to be negative, but let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
So May 22nd, we just released a course, guys. It's called. Oh my gosh, what is it called? I just totally brain lapsed on it. Oh, unlocking spring bear success. And it's a 6-hour course. It's like a precursor course to our big course that we've been developing for the past freaking 3 years.
And that is on Treeline Academy.
Yes, and
As of
so
now?
in the
Okay.
course, yeah, treelineacademy.net,
There
and
you go.
in that course, and a lot of things I do. Also, I just released a Thrive episode last week that went through the 3 phases. Did you get a chance to watch that one yet?
I did watch that. Yeah.
Okay, so we look at it in 3 phases. First phase is pretty much April. Second phase is pretty much till May 15th ish range, roughly. And after May 15th, it kind of falls into that third phase, which is when most of the western bears, at least in the snowpack states like Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, I'm assuming you're going one of those states, and
Idaho.
the rut is really starting to crank up, and not so much the rut as much as the seeking out the sows. And so there's a lot of the bears are really on the move. They're traveling a lot. They're not standing still. You might see some sign, but the bears have already moved on, or they're making some kind of rotation. And so they can be a little harder to pin down. Now, the good news is they're more visible because they're moving a lot. But a lot of the landscape, the snow is melted. Like this, not all of it, obviously, but a lot of landscape is open. And a lot of the north slopes are really starting to turn green towards the end of May. And so this traditional finding bears on the south slope tends to kind of not be a deal about May 15th on. So keep that in mind. You're going to be wanting to look for the greenest new growth you can find, not irregardless of what slope orientation it is. Now, you want to tell me you were going on April 20th, I would say you need to concentrate strictly on southern facing slopes at a certain level below the snow line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on May 20th, you still want to be cognizant of that snow line because the bears are definitely going to be moving up. But a lot of the sows, they don't move up as quick as the boars do. So boars that are looking for sows are going to be where they are. So I get excited on May 20th. There's a couple things I get excited about. Number one is if I start seeing some sows with cubs, I'm like, we're going to stay put because it's only a matter of time. So,
Okay.
yeah. So if you start seeing if you're in an area, start seeing several sows and cubs, I would not say pack your bags and move on like right away because the odds are high that you're going to start seeing some boars real quick in that area. Number one. Number two, that's about the time of the. I'm getting people telling me that they're already seeing fawns, that whitetail and mule deer fawns are already dropping. So the calling is very productive during this last phase of May, 1st of June. So, depending on where you're at, if you're comfortable calling, if you're hunting in Idaho, you can use electronic calls. So that makes a whole different ball game. It's nice because you can set the call away from you. If you're hunting Montana, you have to use a mouth call. You can't use electronic calls for bears. So you have to use a mouth call, which, Montana, you just have to be careful in Montana. There's grizzlies. They have these areas where they say there's grizzlies. Well, you can believe that or whatever you want, but a lot of areas that they say that there's very low numbers of grizz, we've seen multiple grizz. So you've just got to be ready for a grizz in Montana. Now, there's a lot of places in Idaho that don't really have very many grizz as far as coming to the call. But so anyway, calling is starting to become very effective, and we do a lot of it in that time zone. And finding the newest green growth on whatever slope it is. The slope orient. I would almost say during that time frame with what's kind of happening right now, I would say those north slopes are going to start really looking good by May 20th. And so don't discount that. One of the main things that I would give you a tip on is if you're going to be glassing bears. Now, if you're going to be walking logging roads and be spotting stalking bears, which is not a bad idea in May 20th, but if you're going to be trying to glass bears and get after them, you're going to want to glass areas that you can get to relatively quick. Like there's not much sense, I'll be honest with you, setting up and glassing 2 or 3 miles on May 20th because the chance of you making it 2 or 3 miles and that bear still being there is very low. So, setting up for 1,000-yard, 1,500 maybe or less. Like, so think about your glassing spots when you're looking at him before evaluating him before the hunt, which you should be doing. You want to be setting up spots that are not super long, super far during that time zone. That's my advice to that because those bears are on the moves and they'll be on ridges. They'll really travel ridges and where they can pick up scent, where they can cross a track. And so, just keep that in mind. Like set up your glassing spots reasonably, where you can make a move quick. Number 2, don't discount calling at that time. And number 3, any slope orientation, it could be good. You're just looking for the best habitat.
Okay, this is great information specific to this time of year. And again, if people are listening, they haven't done much yet on spring bear. Typically, like what Mark said, is that beginning is like around mid-April, where these states of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming come into play, to June, mid-June, whatever. So kind of specific to what we're talking about here, this third week in May. But okay, I heard everything you said. It makes sense in that earlier part in April that we're following the snow line, south slopes. That's getting a lot of the sun. That's going to show up the green first, and bears are coming out. Of their dens. They're hungry. They just want to eat. So this time in May, though, come second, third, fourth week May, the rut's kind of approaching. Are you still very cognizant of, like, do you still have like green up feed on your mind behind the glass? Like, is that still their priority, or is their priority really starting to switch now to the rut?
Well, so keep in mind, it doesn't matter what the boar's priority are, and that's where people make mistakes, or where they can make mistakes, is they think that, well, okay, the boars are going to be doing X, Y, Z. Well, who cares what the boars are doing? At that time, I'm hunting sows with cubs. Okay. There is nothing that a boar gets more aggressive with than a sow with cubs. We've seen boars run sows up, the cubs up trees. They want to kill those cubs because as long as those cubs are with that sow, you probably know this already, the sow will not ovulate. She's not conducive to becoming, to breeding. So he wants to kill those cubs, and then he'll follow her.
I know that's true. It's just
he'll kill them, and then he'll follow her around until she comes into estrus. And then the ones that did not get bred last year, obviously they're receptive, and then they'll track them down. So if I'm going to be hunting March 20th, I'm really doing a couple of things. I'm really glassing for sows and cubs. Because when I put my eyes on them, I know that there's going to be some boars in the near proximity real quick. Number 2, I'm not afraid to call. I love calling. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. Now, it can get hairy. I mean, it can get super hairy. I've had a couple close calls, but nothing stupid. I've never called in a grizz, knock on wood.
What about wolves?
Wolves, I've never had a wolf come to the call. Now, we've run into wolves. The problem with wolves is in Montana, they close the dang season. I mean, I don't even know what Montana is. Sometimes I just released a podcast, just came out today, and I'm probably never going to draw another Montana tag again because I kind of threw Montana Fish and Wildlife under the bus on this Thrive episode this week.
You do tell it how it is. I love the Wyoming episode where you were just like,
I did get a lead.
We're too stupid to hunt wilderness areas or whatever it was. Oh, I was laughing. But it's
facts.
Yeah, it's facts, man.
So,
God, I'm sorry.
Anyway, Montana, we've got a wolf problem here, right? It's not like this is what people don't understand about wolves. They are so freaking smart. And I've learned so much about wolves over the last 4 or 5 years because we've really been going after them in the last 4 or 5 years. And the intelligence level of these things is off the charts. So the cat's out of the bag. And this is what the Colorado people better start coming to grips with real freaking quick. These wolves, there's no way to eradicate them at this point. It's not going to happen. You could have unlimited tags. You could have 365 days a year, all day and night, thermals, helicopters. You could hunt them with every known method there is now, except poison. That's how they eradicated them before, was poison them. But the problem with poisoning is that's kind of what took a lot of wolves off the landscape back in the old days, because the wolves were wreaking havoc, right? And they would just poison the shit out of them. Well, they killed off all the eagles. There's a lot of problems that come with poison, right? So barring poison in them, dude, I was in Canada and they're putting out 2,000 pounds of bait and it's minus 20. And there's 2,000 pounds of pig out on a frozen lake, and then wolves still would not come to it. They would howl, and they knew that it was placed. They would wait till dark. They would circle us. They circled us multiple days, picked up our scent, and like they knew we were there, and they wouldn't come to the bait. They're so smart. And even though we've got these mounds of bait out there, they still were avoiding us. And so the point is, I really don't know what Montana's thinking, because you've got you can only kill so many wolves. I don't even know how many, 1 or 2, maybe 5, whatever. And but they shut the dang season down during spring bear, and that's just so stupid to me. One, it's the breeding season for them. That's the time to hunt them, because they are going to be more vulnerable. We could probably take a few more off the landscape, but no, they ain't doing it. Now Idaho, they've taken the gloves off. Idaho is 365 days a year. You can hunt them at night in some areas. You can use electronic calls. You can do everything with wolves in Idaho, virtually. And they still, they're keeping them under control, but they're not eradicating them by any means. In Colorado, if they don't adopt some type of control in the next, 7 or 8, 10 years, however long it's going to take these things to get a massive foothold, they're going to have big problems. They're already having problems. These wolves are wiping out livestock. You saw my podcast. They thought it was going to be $100,000 a year. In the first year, it was $500,000 damages.
Yeah.
And now
I
don't know.
One crossed the border to Wyoming, and they shot it over there. Yeah.
I just talked about that in this week's. Have you listened to this week's show that just came out 5 hours ago?
Not this week.
Not just yet. About this. And so I think it's episode, because this might not come out for a little bit, episode 15. You'll have to listen to that.
Okay.
And because, they've killed 2 now in Wyoming, and that have come from Colorado. And they found one dead in Rocky Mountain National Park. They don't know why it's dead yet. And I kind of made fun of that. I said that wolf death will be investigated more than that illegal alien nightclub that they just busted. And I said, you can guarantee they'll be investigating that wolf death. And so they found a female dead. They don't know why she died yet, but anyway,
Anyway, yeah, I did buy my wolf tag because I'm going out there now. Then I have an elk tag. I'll be out there in September. So I was like, I'm going to buy that wolf tag now. But where were we? Oh, we were, you know what? I did want to get back into the calling. That's what we were talking about, calling, because I read through. I like picking up a book, trying to learn more about animal behavior. Last year, I do a lot of bear hunting here. Well, a lot now. Well, the past year, New Jersey brought back their bear hunting.
Yeah. Okay.
So went out there, did that last year. It's a fun hunt, but I wanted to learn more about baiting and stuff. And I just picked up a bear hunting book, Douglas Bowes. He's got that ultimate guide to bear hunting. So I did, but last year I didn't read through the spot and stalk mountain hunting section. I was just focused on the finding sign and bear baiting. But as of recently, I'm going back through the spot and stalk, and it didn't really process, because I don't see a lot of guys doing it, but you're mentioning it now, was the calling. Yeah. He actually says that's his favorite way to do it. So I'm actually selfishly going to ask too. I want to know more about these calling methods because I don't hear a lot of guys talk about that as far as like what
Well,
you're doing, the method behind it, the time of day.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Curious.
Well,
Yeah.
great. This is one of my favorite subjects. So,
Okay.
I'll start off by saying that for you, the people that listen to this podcast, if you go to gohunt.com and you search my name, if you search Livesay, bear calling, or whatever, I wrote a pretty good article on Go Hunt that goes through some of this stuff that I'm going to be telling you. So that's another resource if you want to check it out. And I've been on a couple of podcasts that were pretty dedicated to calling. But anyway, so calling bears is for me. I'm fairly new at it. I've been doing it for about 8 years. My very first bear that I killed in the West intentionally. So when I say that, I've killed a lot of bears, but it's always been when I'm elk hunting and a bear comes by, and I had an elk tag as well. I mean, I had a bear tag as well. So back in the day when I hunted Colorado years and years ago, you could just buy bear tags and put it when you went elk hunting. And New Mexico, same way, and Wyoming, same way. And so, and I killed several bears, but not really targeting bears, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, not until I moved to Montana 9 years ago did I start really targeting bears in the spring. And so I went on this hunt. So we moved here in April. And the very first, I was still a non-resident. So I had to buy a non-resident bear tag. So I go down and buy a $350 bear tag. And I told my wife, I'm going to go up this spot. It's heavy grizz country. I looked at it briefly, e-scouting it, but I did not do a very good job. I'm embarrassed to say that I'm supposed to be this king of e-scouting, but I totally screwed the pooch on this one. So I looked at it on X or guy, whatever. I'm not picking on X, and it looked wide open. It looked like it was going to be beautiful glassing. It was an old logging area, big, expansive logging area. It was at the right elevation. Everything was perfect. So I drive 4 hours to get there. I get there, and there's the logging area has grown up now with 4 foot, 5 foot reprod trees, like regrowth. I'm like, I did not look at Google Earth, which I should have. I didn't look at the dates when the logging operations happened. So I didn't calculate any new growth, which I don't make that mistake anymore. But anyway, I get there and I can't see anything that I thought I could see. So I'm from Missouri. I've done a few coyote calling competitions in my day. And I thought to myself, why can't you? I have no idea you can even call a black bear at that point. And I'm like, why wouldn't they come to a call? And I was seeing bear sign everywhere. There was scat. I was getting concerned that some of the scat that I was seeing was grizzly because it was so big. But there was no bones. There was no hair. Now, that's not always telltale, guys, with grizzly. Grizzlies eat grass, too. So don't think that you're always going to see bones and hair in grizzly scat because that's not true. So anyway, I wasn't sure, because again, like I said, it was my first bear hunt. So I find this semi-open logging area, and I called for about 20, 30 minutes, and I had heard, I think it was it Carlton or that old-time caller? I had heard one little segment of, they talked about you want to call and you want no breaks and you go for an hour. I had heard something of that regard, and I'm like, ooh, okay. I said, I'm going to try it. So I called for like 30 minutes and solid, no breaks. Well, my lips were going numb because remember in Montana you have to use a mouth call. No electronic call. So I was using the elk diaphragm and I was making elk calf sounds just as distressed as I could make them. Well, I called in a crud ton of whitetail deer. I can tell you that they were running everywhere looking for what it was, but no bears. So I hiked down this logging road about another mile. I get to another log out. It's a little bit bigger, a little more open. So I was like, okay, this looks good. Sat down. I made sure I could see 360. I mean, I at least was aware that I was in grizzly country. I don't think I realized how serious of grizzly country I was in at the time. Like some of the most highest concentrates of grizzlies in Montana. And so I set up. I start calling. I'd call for 45 minutes. my mouth is literally so numb I can't hardly call anymore because I'm just blowing.
I was going to say, it sounds miserable.
It's harder than people think.
Yeah.
So if I was to recommend, I would get like one of the Phelps game calls. The PCR1 call is what I'm using now. It's a very easy to blow call, but using a diaphragm for 45 minutes straight nonstop is pretty hard. And so anyway, I call for 45 minutes, 45 minutes, long time, and nothing. So I had stood up. I was working on my pack. I was getting ready to move, try somewhere else. I was seeing bear sign everywhere. And I look up and I'm looking on this slope, and it's real mixed in with this reprod. And I see this black bowling ball kind of thing just dodging trees and rolling down this mountainside. And I'm like, he's about 200, 250 yards away at that point. I was like, what is that? And it didn't even hit me that it was a bear. And I'm like, finally, he gets in a little opening. I'm like, oh, shit, that's a bear. And he's rolling toward me. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I got my gun. I got everything ready. I'm up. And the log out I'm in has a couple rollers. I can't see really that great. So I'm standing up on this log. I'm trying to get a look. And bears don't see that well. So you don't have to get too worried about them seeing you. Now, smelling is a whole different story. But anyway, I saw him hit the log out. So he's in the log out now. So he's about maybe 100 yards, 150 yards. But I can't really get eyes on him. And finally, he comes over this little rise and he slams on the brakes. And he's about 50 yards from me, 75 yards. And I pulled the gun up and I got the gun right almost on him. And he stands up. So I went to move the gun from his legs up to his chest. And then the time I moved up, he dropped back down and he went down in the ditch again. I was like, oh, shit. So I'm waiting and waiting. And now this next ditch is right in front of me, like literally 20 yards. So I'm like just waiting, and sure enough, he pops right over this ditch, and I got on him, and I had no choice. I had to shoot him just straight on. So I shot him head on. He flips over backwards. I'm like, I'm a bear killer, and I about got my phone out. I'm not kidding. I almost started doing an Instagram reel. I was like, I'm a giant bear killer. This is a big bear, and I look back, and that dude's getting up. I'm like, oh, shit. So I forget what I'm doing. I'm not getting my phone out, guy. I'm just kidding about that.
Yeah, right.
But I did not jack another shell in like a dumbass. That's lesson number 2. I'm going to give you a couple lessons for what I've learned. So I got a shell in, and about the time I bolted that shell in, he's 10 yards from me. So by the time I got the gun up, at that point, I'm like, I can't look through the scope. I knew I couldn't. So I just followed him and tracked him. And he's running at me, but he's not running at me to eat me. I could tell by the look in his eyes, he was looking past me. Like, anyway, I know it sounds weird, but anyway, he gets right to me and I step to the right and I put the barrel right on his side and pulled the trigger. As soon as the barrel touched him, as soon as I felt the barrel hit his hide, I pulled the trigger and that did it. He was just dead. And I was just standing there like he's right, he's 2 feet from me. And I'm like, oh, man, that was freaking intense.
That's epic.
Well, then it hit me about the grizz. And then I start looking. I'm freaked out because this bear is making noise. He's making the death moan after the first shot. And so I had been calling. Now I got this death moan going on. I got whitetail blowing everywhere. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to get eaten. So then I'm like, okay, I shot the bear. I was like, I got to start skinning this bear. And I literally skinned that bear looking over my shoulder the whole time, but nothing happened. And I ended up killing that bear. Was about 6'5" and 6'4". It's the biggest bear that I've killed to date still. But the point was it was in an area that was not glassable at all. So that's why he was so big. He had lived there for so long and gotten so big because he just was literally unhuntable, except because there's no baiting in Montana, right? There's no baiting. There's no dogs. There's no nothing at the time. And the only way to get the bears in this area would be to walk logging roads and hope you run into one or try to call one in. Well, most people wouldn't even dream about calling a bear in this area. And I would recommend most people, you never would even attempt it. So that was my first bear of Montana that I called in. And I had another call in just like it except the bear came in a little quieter behind me, and I shot him again, and I wounded him, tracked him, and he charged me, and I had to put the barrel on him too. So 2 different bears I called in, I had to put the barrel on them, physically touch them, and
Man.
so it can be intense, but it can also be pretty easy. My recommendation is make sure you set up in the open. Do not set up in a bunch of cover for bears. Number one, they can't see that well. And when they commit, they usually are committing. They either come or they don't, right? It's not like they don't mess around. And now other bears we've called to, Weston, and they don't even look at us. We can see the bear, we call, they do nothing. Other bears, you call, here they come. It's just, you get them in the right mood. Now, a lot of that is the time of year, like you said. Sometimes I think we've called like in April, they look at us like, what are you doing? They have no interest in meat in early April.
Is it because it's just the green up and everything is just so abundant?
Exactly.
It's like, this is free.
It's abundant, and they know their digestive system is not ready. I don't think they're not ready to digest meat yet. They've been in hibernation. Their digestive system, they haven't even pooped out their mucus plug yet.
Right, the plug.
And so they've got to get things working, and that grass helps that process, the way I understand it.
Okay.
So they're just not interested. Now, that doesn't mean they won't run across something dead and eat it, but they're just not as aggressive after meat as they are when the fawns. And once those fawns start dropping, it just triggers something in these bears. They just get like crazy. Now, you got to remember, I got lucky. I set up 2 times and called. So when you're going to call for bears, you got to keep in mind there's not a bear behind every tree. It's not like coyote hunting. You might do 20 setups and not get a bear. I've done a lot of setups where we just never got a chance, and then all of a sudden, boom. But if you're in an area and you're hiking logging roads and you're seeing a lot of fresh sign and you got a lot of bears scattered around, and that might be a good opportunity, because there's one, if he's within hearing distance, you've got to, and they can hear extremely well. So you've got a good chance to maybe get him interested. So anyway, I really love it. And I take it you're going to Idaho, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So Idaho, dude, I wouldn't even think about it. And are you flying or are you driving?
I'm flying.
Yeah. If you could squeeze it in, are you backpacking in? Are you guys gonna road hunt, camp, or
going to? Yeah, and I have other questions I want to build off my scenario, but I want to make sure I'm covering
if you're going with buddies,
a lot of different ones. But
I would have
a couple other guys. Maybe do not.
No, definitely do.
Try. Yeah. So we're gonna operate kind of out of a base camp, and then I told them I'm definitely gonna, and I think the other guys are doing this too. We're also gonna bring single mans if we all want to spike out, maybe solo or together or whatever, just prepared. And I kind of I said I'm probably gonna bring my tent too, just for a night or 2 solo, just to cleanse the soul, just because I need that. But no, that's kind of gonna be the plan. So, where was I going with that? Yeah. Oh no, I like though how we're looking at this as another tool in the toolkit, and yes, this is a strategy. Utilizing logging roads is a strategy. Glassing is a strategy, and it's another strategy is to combine strategies. So it's if you're on these logging roads picking up sign, like you said, then definitely could try this calling method. Or would you see a scenario?
Opening,
where you're
it's not going to hurt anything. You're not going to run bears out by setting up and doing a calling sequence, right? It's not going to. Well, I shouldn't say that 100%, but it's not probably going to hurt your odds of success if you try it. Now, there is a chance that a bear circles, gets your wind, and then it's over. But that could happen if you're spot and stalking as well. So, whatever. I mean, especially in Idaho, there's a lot of areas with no grizz, and I would be very comfortable doing calls in Idaho, especially with being able to use electronic call. The one thing I'll recommend, if you've got electronic call and you're going to do bears, most of these calls are not set up to call bears. What I mean is they pause. They got pauses in them. So in the recordings, they have a minute pause. Like if you're calling coyotes, that's what you do. Call for a minute, give a pause so the coyote's looking, right? I found with bears, the best success. Now, I'm not saying it won't work. It might work just fine. But what I've done with my calls is I've exported out those wave files and I edited them in a little editing program where I took out the breaks and I made
you can do that.
Oh, yeah. Because most of these
when-
calls, you can use a USB cord and put your own in, right?
Uh-huh.
And so either record yourself or get a commercial one and take out all the spaces and just make an hour-long consecutive running call. And I've never really said that before. That's one of my secrets. So your podcast, this is a first. But,
there we go. There's a nugget.
It's a good one. And you know, and you can start to increase your volume or you can decrease your volume, whatever, however you want to do it. But the key with bears for me is consistent duration calls. You can take a little break here and there if you need. I mean, I'm not saying it's got to be solid, but I've had the best success with no breaks in the calls. If you're sitting there thinking that this is ridiculous, nothing's going to come to this. This is too loud. It's too long. There's no breaks. There's no animal sounds like this on planet Earth. Then you're doing everything perfectly.
Okay.
If you're thinking that in your head, then you're doing it right. If you're saying, "Oh, I think I'm have too many pauses," then you definitely have too many pauses. So it's so crazy that they'll come to it like that. Most guys will not do it. They'll call for 15 minutes. They'll feel like stupid doing it, and they'll take a 2-minute break or a 3-minute break. And sometimes I'm telling you, it's all it takes for that bear to lose interest. And I don't know what it is about it, but I've just had tremendous success with no breaks. Now, when I say breaks, nothing longer than 30, 45 seconds is in that range, right?
Okay.
I'm not saying you can't hardly blow a mouth call without a little bit of break. But I'm talking like a normal coyote sequence would be call for a few minutes, then give a little break. Call for a few minutes. And so a lot of these calls are set up with that structure. And so anyway, we'll take it or leave it.
No, really cool. And that's such a lot of good information there. I don't want to get too just on calling. I feel like I still want to make sure covering a few different bases here I'm always trying to think of like the guy from back east too, but calling definitely can be very effective, especially this time of year. Like we've talked about, there's kind of this April time frame into May, later pushing into June. But from like a macro level, when people want to start looking around, because there's tons of over-the-counter opportunity. Pretty much most of Idaho is, except a couple units that are controlled hunts. And they start looking at Google Earth. Maybe they pick up some nuggets from treelineacademy.net. And I know you have the course and everything, but just to give like a little highlight of like what are some typical things to look for. I know we talked about some south faces, like when the snow melts off, but as far as like the green up is key, I know. Maybe some steep country, just things like that, just so people can kind of get an idea too. And then also, I've heard a little bit of mixed answers from guys too about time of day. I know a lot of people don't like to do things in the morning. Evenings seem to be key. I don't know. If you just want to get into a little bit of that.
No, dude, you've obviously been paying attention. So you ask a lot of things there, and
I did. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, these are all things that you need to know. And so let's start with the first thing. So a little bit, well, no, quite a bit depends on what phase you're hunting. Okay, let's make sure we get that straight. We've concentrated on phase 3 today, which I don't really focus on very much because we typically don't hunt that much phase 3. If we hunt phase 3, we are calling a lot. And that's just a tactic. And phase 2 and phase 1, we're predominantly glassing. Okay, that's our favorite way to kind of, not, shouldn't say our favorite because we do like calling, but the most productive way that we kill the most bears, spot and stalk, meaning spot them, move, kill them. That's how we killed most of our bears. And we've called in a lot of bears, but not proportionate to how many we've killed spot and stalk. So just so you know. And the main reason that's true is because we hunt so much in phase 1 and 2. Because in
Right.
phase 3, I'm pretty much with Ryan Lampers most of the time, and he's got these Western hunting summits that take place in early June. And I'm like slave labor at this thing. So he doesn't let me I don't get to bear hunt during the 3rd phase. It's not because I don't want to, it's because I'm always working. So that's part of the problem. But you said, so in the early seasons, meaning phase 1, part of phase 2, I'm really looking at south slopes. That's job 1. I'm looking at southern. Now, when I say southern, remember, I'm not talking pure south. South, southeast, more southwest, and south. Southeast still gets a lot of shade. So it's going to green up on the southeast, but not as quick as it will on the true south and the southwest. So south, southwest slopes. Another mistake people make with bear hunting is they go into an area and they're like, oh man, this is too steep. Guys, I've learned a lot from Ryan, but one thing I have learned is there's almost nothing too steep for these giant bears. If you are like having trouble moving around because it's so steep, you're in the right spot. A lot of guys like, oh, this is too steep. It's not gonna be. It's all rocks. It's all this. It's all that. Man, I'm telling you. Well, you've seen some of the films. I mean, we are hunting them in
Yes.
rock cliff bands, and sometimes we're hunting bears. And I'm looking at them like, Brian, if we shoot that bear, how are we getting to that bear? Oh, we'll figure that out. I'm like, what do you mean figure it out? He's on a freaking cliff. I don't even know how he got there. And so don't underestimate the steepness that these bears prefer, especially phase 1. Now, phase 2, they might start relaxing off that a little bit. But phase 1 and a lot of phase 2, the steepness is really important for us. The green up. So we hear this, we say this a lot, but in phase 1 and in most of phase 2, you really want to look at where the snow line is, and you want to be glassing areas that are between 750 to 1,500 feet in elevation below that actively melting snow line. It takes about that much time for things to start popping through the ground, to start greening up. So you want to target. A lot of guys make the mistake of going to the snow line. Well, there's not much growing at the snow line. It takes about 10 to 12 days I'm actually doing some research on this right now. So I don't know if I can speak to it 100% yet, but the studies and the information that I'm finding, it pretty much takes about 10 days of 40 to 45 degree days to start greening the slopes to green. The other mistake people make is they look at a slope and it doesn't look green, right? Like they look and they're like, well, it doesn't look green, but it's got these little green shoots coming through the dirt. I can't tell you how many bears we have killed that looks like brown. When you get your spotting scope on it, you're like, oh, there's these little yellow flowers that are just cracking the surface called glacier lilies, or these little green sprouts that are pumping through the dirt. But from a distance, it looks brown. People are looking for this green carpet, right? Well, by the time the grass is green carpet, in our opinion, that grass is too mature for bears. So you want to get the new emerging growth. This is important if you're listening to this. This new emerging growth is what they love. So a lot of guys say, oh man, look at that neon green meadow. Well, it looks nice and it's real nice and bright green, but it's a little mature. When a bear is given a choice, in our opinion, they like the newest growth versus really green, like a month-old growth, let's call it. I don't know if that's true or not, but a mature grass. Now, they will eat it later on, but as they're coming out of hibernation and as they're getting their systems going, especially in that first month of the season, they're really keyed into that new popping growth. So don't always look for the greenest slopes. That can be a mistake. Use your spotting scope, zero in on the ground, see what you can pick up. if you can see these little yellow flowers that are just breaking through the dirt, oh man, you're very close to the prime zone. They're like crack. Those bears, it's like they cannot get enough of those glacier lilies. But once the whole slope is just bright yellow with glacier lilies and there's flowers everywhere and the grass is 8 inches deep, there can be some bears around. But remember what we're trying to do with bear hunting, okay? Guys have said, well, I saw a bear on the west slope. When I saw a bear out in the deep grass, I saw a bear at 3,000 feet. I know you did. But the reality is we're playing an odds game here. Yep. And the odds are better if you approach it the way I'm saying versus just hoping for an anomaly or an exception to the rule.
Because when you approach it the way you're saying, you're now able to pin down that location a little bit more.
What you're doing, Weston, is you're not really looking for bear zones, okay? What you're doing is you're eliminating country that is not what you can look at it two ways. You're either looking for the zone that you're trying to dial in, or you're eliminating all the areas that are too low, that are the wrong facing slope, that don't have the right steepness, that they just do not fit the scenario. Or you can say, I'm going to isolate only for this. So Brady Miller is the one that got me thinking this way. He told me once, he goes, Mark, I found it better to remove the areas that I'm not interested in more than pinpoint the areas I'm looking for. And I'm thinking, what's the same thing? Kinda, but it's not. Because when you start looking at these apps and you start saying, show me all the north slopes, northwest, and everything's green, and you're looking for everything that's not green on these isolation tools that you can use. I did a podcast, maybe you can link to it. I did a Thrive podcast on this isolation using Go Hunt, Onyx, the new Terrain X tool in Onyx. This exact thing we're talking about. Isolating areas based on slope orientation, slope steepness, and elevation range. Those are the three factors. We massage those numbers. We want the right steepness, we want the right facing slope, and we want to be at the right elevation zone in relation to where the snow is. You get those three right, your odds of running into a bear are way up here. If you start getting outside that area, your odds go down. That doesn't mean you're not going to find a bear. We play the odds game. And I'm not bragging, but that's why we kill so many bears. We play the, when you go to the casino, what do they say? Craps is the only game that really has a lot of skill. A lot of the other games, and you go to a casino, are all chance games, right? So we like to play craps when we go bear hunting. We want to tilt the odds in our favor. They're already against us, right? There's not a bear behind every tree. So we want to tilt the odds in our favor versus just hoping a bear shows up in some random meadow because it's green. And I think a lot of guys get stuck looking at really, really green country because it looks so freaking mesmerizing. It's so bright green but it's too late. By the time you can see it like that, the bears have kind of they've lost interest in that. So one of the other things, last thing I'll say, we look for seeps a lot. Bears and water in the spring go hand in hand. Now they're hard to find e-scouting, but as soon as we get boots on the ground, we're glassing slopes looking for little water seeps and the green neon, those little green neon moss patches.
Green will pop.
Just a little patch of green. How many of our movies have you watched where the bear is killed on a little green patch?
Yeah.
And it's almost always the same. It's a little water seep that's got some moss growing with the little shoots growing up around it. If you find those guys, I'm telling you the bears are coming. If you didn't see one that day, he's going to be there. Now, everybody's like, the other question we get is, how long do I stay in a spot before I move on, right?
I had that written down because I have some everything's generalities. Like I don't try to do hard and fast rules for things because every situation is different. But like mule deer, whatever, maybe guys have rules. But I did want to ask you that for bears. Like your
again, it's so with bears, guys, man, it's so phase dependent. In phase 1, we will give at least a morning and an evening
Okay.
before we will move. Now, when I say move, sometimes we move just to get another look, just to get another angle. We might move a half mile, we might move a mile and look at a different angle of some of the same country. Depends on how much we can see and can't see, how brushy it is. If it's really, really, really open, then, and we know, because bears are not hard to see, guys. When a bear comes out on the slope, it's like a diamond in the freaking rough. They shine, right? Now, when you're in a burn and there's a bunch of black stumps, that gets a little ugly because you see a bear, you visualize bears everywhere. But they really do show up. You don't have to be the master glasser to see a bear. So you give it a morning and a night. But in the third season, as mobile as the bears are, I'm more looking, if I'm seeing country that just looks amazing and I'm seeing some sows around with some cubs, I might give it a day or two even, because that bear's coming. It's just how long are you willing to wait for him to come? There's no sow that's not going to be looked at by a boar at some point. And at the end of May, they're looking. So if I had a couple of sows on the mountains, man, I'd have a hard trouble moving away from that. If I had good visibility and I had good water, I had good new growth, I had all the things. It kind of was, I felt like I was at a good elevation. I didn't see it. The hunting pressure was pretty low. I'd have a hard time not giving it a couple days in the later phases of the season.
Okay.
Does that make
Good
sense?
to know. Yeah, totally makes sense. Just because they're on the move, and like that's a battle in any hunt anywhere. Should I stay or should I go? That's constantly. I was just out hunting turkeys this morning, just real quick before work, and that was my internal dialogue the whole time. Yeah, no, really good stuff there. I did want to ask you one other question too. Well, okay, wait, real quick. Time of day. I know a lot
Okay.
of guys talk about the evenings are key. Get out the early afternoons. Maybe thoughts on the morning. I don't know.
So we don't hunt bears in the morning hardly ever.
Okay.
We just don't see a lot of movement in the morning. Like, I mean, daybreak kind of stuff. And the other thing we don't see a lot of bears is when it's rainy and it's yucky. They tend to not want to be that visible either. Now, we've killed bears in the rain. There's no doubt about it. And but here's the reality. There is a real thing called glassing fatigue, and here's what happens. A lot of guys would get up crack of dawn. They get out there in their glassing spot. And they sit there for 3 or 4 hours in the morning. They wear themselves out. They're tired of glassing. They got a headache. They give up when it's the prime time. So 11 o'clock to about 4 p.m. is bear killing 30 for us. We kill so many bears around 11 o'clock. I can't tell you how many bears we've killed around 11 o'clock. 10 o'clock would be probably a good time to start thinking about glassing. If you really feel like you're not, but here's the thing. Don't start glassing until you know you can go the whole time. Until you know that you can go till dark. Because the other thing guys do bear hunting is they sit up there and there's about an hour before dark and they're like, well, if we see something right now, we're not going to be able to get to it. So let's head back to camp. Well, that's not the mentality. Now in phase 3, that might be a mentality, but in phase 1 or 2, all we need is to see the bear. Once we see the bear, we know he's going to be close proximity the next day. Probably let me put it this way. We got a pretty good chance that he's going to be in that area the next day. Now phase 3, probably not. So phase 3, you got to go. You see the bear in phase 3, you go try to kill him no matter what. Because if you wait till the next day, if you delay, you second guess yourself, or you don't have time to get over there or whatever, you're probably not going to get a chance at that bear. So, hey, you're an ultra marathoner. When you see that bear, you freaking go.
Okay.
And
Noted.
you don't wait till the next day and you're at the time you're going. At least in my opinion. And so time of day is important because a lot of guys get out there cracking down because they're so gung-ho. And by 11 or noon, they're worn out. So they take naps during the day and then they start glassing again in the evening. Well, the evening is a good time to glass a bear up, but the middle of the day on a bright, sunny day, that's warm but not crazy warm. Oh man, it's like bears everywhere. And the other thing, Ryan talked about this real subtly in the course, and we didn't get to elaborate on it, but he's right. When you see a bear out, it's like they have some kind of way to communicate. Because when one bear's out, every bear's out. It's the weirdest thing. Kind of deer the same way, right? You look out, you don't see any deer, and all of a sudden, boom, there's deer everywhere.
Yep.
And it's just like some metabolic something triggers these bears, and it's like once you see a bear, you want to start really looking because the odds are they're on their feet. And don't underestimate too. The other thing about it is these bears can lay up in a log. I've seen a bear lay behind a log for 8 hours. We almost killed the biggest bear probably that I've ever hunted. We called him Meatball, and we got on that sucker and we glassed him up. He's a slob. And we got on him, and we were 103 yards from this bear, and he was in this patch of willows. And we it was a marginal shot. We should have taken it, but we waited that bear out until he got out. That bear laid there for like 10 hours, never moved. And we waited too long. The thermals blew down to him and blew him out. It was a mistake. It was a huge mistake. And but my point is, a bear can be bedded in the wide open behind a little stump and a little bit of shade, and you glass that slope, glass that slope, glass that slope, and you think there's no bears, and all of a sudden he stands up and there he is. So you got to be careful about, I can see everything and there's no bears, because that's not true. Little creek drainages, little drains that have a few little pieces of willow or brush in them. It's crazy where these bears will go to bed down and lay down, and then all of a sudden, when they get up there, they just like they materialize on the slope. It's happened to us so many times. So you got to be careful about just setting down for a few minutes, glassing a big slope, and saying, "Well, there's no bears." Well, maybe not. So whatever that's worth. So time of day is we spend a lot of time 11 to dark.
Okay. It's interesting to hear you say though that like you've killed a lot at 11, and then that 11 to 4. I if I would have bet, I would have said I would have thought you would say maybe that last light would be the most money, but okay.
Well, think about all the films. Okay, so all the films that we made. How many bears have you seen us with flashlights doing the skinning?
That's true. Yeah.
Not very many. I mean, there's a few. There's a few.
Uh-huh.
Some of the times it's just because it took us so dang long to get to the bear after we shot the bear, right?
Thing.
But really, if you think about it, a lot of the video is really good for the grip and grins because it's in the middle of the freaking day.
Yep.
And now I shouldn't say middle of the day, but also remember in the West, guys, for you guys that are coming from the East, you know it too, but man, your days are starting to get longer and longer and longer. And by the end of May, you're really getting some. The sun's not going down till, I don't know, 7 or 8 maybe, and it's getting up. It's so you got longer periods of daylight, especially like in Montana and these northern western states. And early season, we always battle because we feel like we're in the tent forever because it's dark all the time in early April. But as the season goes, the days get longer and longer and longer, and those bears are very. Once you get to where the thermals just start to cool the air, like let's say 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4:30ish. Oh man, it's bear 30. I mean, it's really, you guys just don't glass. If you can glass all day and you got no fatigue and you can stay in the glass for 10 hours, then glass all day. But if you know that you've got the limitations, then I would say 11 to dark.
And I wanted to put a bow on this, was to mention that the glassing fatigue, because I hunted late season mule deer last year in Idaho by myself. So it's like it was the last 10 days of October, so they're not rutting, and bucks aren't like bachelor'd up. It's not like the early season. So like really my best plays were glassing first light and last light. And I will tell you right now, like, the glassing fatigue is a real thing.
It's a real thing, dude.
I try to at least act tough, like I can, endure it, whatever. But it's really hard to do, in which you can find yourself doing, which like with Mark said, because I had many days out there, like I'm like, okay, I'm packed in, I got camp set up. It's 1 PM. This is where I want to glass in the evening, and you're there all day. The days are long, but the next thing you know, your eyeballs are falling out and the sun's going down. And it's like you got to lock in.
That's
so
right.
so you just got to be conscious of those things.
I'll give you guys another tip. You might have heard me say this before, but whatever. This is going to sound harsh, but hey, on the run and rack, we're gonna tell the truth here, or run the rack. Sorry,
run
not
the
run.
rack. Yeah,
run
that's
the
all
rack.
right.
So we're truth tellers, right, Weston? So whatever binoculars you've got, if you've got the money, okay, if you've got a little bit of money. Now, again, all you Swaro guys, you're not going to like me right now. You're not going to like me. I have 2 pairs of Swaros, okay?
There's one behind me.
They have never left my shelf since I got the Zulu 6s. There's so much dust on my Swaros right now. My $3,000 binoculars do nothing but actually right now I'm using to hold up some books. And
paperweight.
Yeah, they're a paperweight. These guys, these SIG, and I pay for every pair of binoculars I get. I got no benefit from SIG, but SIG, if you're listening, I need a new pair. The SIG image stabilizing binoculars are so unbelievably good that I cannot tell you what a game changer they are. Everybody's like, well, the glass is not as good as mine. I don't give a crap about your glass. I don't care. Well, low light, they're not as good. Well, okay, who cares? Because let me tell you something. Glass is not what is helping you find those animals. It's movement. It's the vibration of that glass. And the glassing fatigue is literally almost zero in these binoculars.
That's what I was going to say, because doesn't that cause the fatigue? Your eyes are trying to,
here's the other thing.
Small movement, your eyes are trying to, keep it still to your brain, and that's what
gives you the headache, right? That's what's giving you the headaches. Mm-hmm. So you literally take those Zulus, and they weigh half as much as a regular pair of binoculars. Not even half. They weigh less than half. So when I was running, I think I was running the Vortex 12 by 50s, HDs, the Razor HDs or whatever they were. And when I remember putting them on the scale, I had a pair of the SIG Zulu 10s and the 16s. Both pairs weighed less than the single pair of my Vortexes. But anyway, you take those Zulu image stabilizers, put them on your trekking pole, dude. You don't need them on a trekking pole for stabilization. It just makes the glassing so more comfortable. Because with a pair of 16s, I challenge anybody. You get on a ridge with a 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing, and you try to glass bears with a 15 power binoculars, regular, it ain't going to happen without a tripod. And even with a tripod in that kind of wind, it's still vibrating. I don't care what kind of tripod you got. But when you take those image stabilizers, I can stand on a ridge. I'm not making this up. I can stand on a ridge with 40-mile-an-hour wind. And I'm standing there. I'm not sitting down. And I see something across the ridge. I've killed bears like this. I don't know how many times. And I'm like, what is that? I pull my 16s up, freehand, one hand. And I'm like, yeah, that's a big bear. You will never do that with a pair of 15 regular binoculars. Never happen. Everybody's like, we see a bear, everybody's like scrambling to get their tripods out, get their binoculars strapped on, all the things they got to do. And I'm just like, no, that's not a bear. And they're like, oh, shit. They're putting their shit back. I'm like, no, that's a bear. Because that stabilizing is so freaking good. And this is a guy that I used to want the best glass I could get until I realized that the glass is not helping me find more animals. Now, the SIGs have gotten way better in the last. I have the first gen. The second generation that's out right now, and I think they even have a third gen. But anyway, the glass is way better. So it's getting better. Now, it's not SIG quality, let's be honest. But, guys, that stabilization over is just money. If you want to find more bears, I'm guaranteeing it, you will find more bears with those image stabilizers than you'll ever find with a regular pair of binoculars. And I'm not dissing on Vortex. I'm not dissing on Sig Sauer. I'm not dissing on anybody. I'm just telling you the facts that we turn up so many more animals now with these stabilized versions than we ever did with regular versions. And they're so easy. So the system I run now is I run my stabilizers with my trekking pole just setting there. I can look any direction without having to move my tripod around or all that crap, right? And I'm more comfortable because like I said, I can stand up, I can do whatever I want. I'm not tied to this setting tripod business. But then I keep my spotting scope. I have a Swaro spotting scope on my tripod all the time. First thing I sit down, I throw my spotting scope on, and I got my binoculars. So if I see something that I want to check out with quote better glass, then I just lean over, put my spotting scope on it, check it out, go right back to glassing. So I'm not swapping. The other thing about this system is I'm not swapping out my binoculars with my spotting scope like you have to do, right? Normally.
To get that guys, stable, yeah.
I'm just telling you, you can trust the old man or you could not. And I almost guarantee you one thing. If you buy them and try them, you'll be sending me a note saying, Mark, I just can't believe how much different this is. And but I've been using them for the day I tried them. I've never looked through my other. I have a lot of binoculars. I got a couple problems. My wife knows I got a couple problems. I got a boot. I got a lot of problems, but I got
just a couple.
I got a boot problem. I got a lot of boots. Got a tent problem. I got a lot of tents, and I got a binocular problem. But now I don't. Now I've got all these binoculars that I do not touch. I have not been on a hunt. I'm not making this up. 120 days a year, about what I average. I have not done a single hunt anywhere for any species without the Sig Zulu stable since I used them day one. Day one.
Okay. And you're not the first and only guy I've heard talk about these.
Ask Brian Barney about it.
Yeah, he loves them.
Barney doesn't talk about it too much because he thinks that's his secret. I think he thinks that's his secret sauce. But
yeah, I got to check them out. I got to get my hands on them.
Guys, here's the kicker. They're not very expensive compared to other binoculars. They're like $1,000 for the 12s.
Yeah, like compared to a pair of NL Pures. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Like, I mean, think about it. Yeah.
So you're talking about 3 pairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or more. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I hate to recommend. I don't recommend gear that aggressively, right? Most things you could get by with this or get by with that. And this is a pretty good stove, and that's a pretty good stove too. But when it comes to this, guys, this is one thing I'm telling you that is 100% game changer. So I'm getting ready to buy a new pair because I've got a pair that quit working on me after about 4 years. Something's wrong with the battery. And I paid like $600 for these binoculars. And I'm like, if I could get 5 years out of a pair of binoculars for $600, I'm like, I'll sign up every day.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we spent a lot of time on that, guys. But I'm telling you, I don't say that much on podcasts. But this is a really, really game-changing tip. So
awesome stuff. And I got one more question I got to slide in here because I promised buddy I'd ask. He wanted to know, say you're going out for spring bear, and for whatever reason you have a mindset on this specific trip that maybe you're with lampers and you're like, and he says to you like, hey Mark, this trip we're going in for a mature bear.
Mm-hmm.
We want to find a mature bear, and you say, okay, we're gonna do XYZ. So do you see any other different generalities when you find mature bears, or if you're saying I'm going into this hunt to target a mature bear, are you going anything different? What's going through your mind when you think of I want to try it and find or hold out for a mature bear? Any differences?
If you want to kill the biggest bear on the mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only mature, we want to kill the oldest bears out there, but I want to kill 6-foot bears, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the holy grail, guys. If you want to know what how we kind of judge it is in Idaho and Montana, if you kill a 6-foot black bear, you're doing something. That's a legit bear. No matter how old that bear is, right? That is a big ass bear. And that's what we want. I mean, that's what we dream of, right? If we're going to kill those bears, we go early. I'm just telling you right now, we go literally almost opening day. April 15th, maybe no later than April 22nd or 3rd. Because to get those giant bears, there's not many of them. Okay. Remember, there's only 30,000 bears in Montana or whatever it is, right? And of those 30,000, a far majority of those are not 6 foot. The 6-foot bear, I'm not saying he's the 200-inch mule deer, but it's a big mule. It's a Boone and Crockett mule deer equivalent, right?
Yeah.
So
like the biggest bear I have it's Pope and Young. He was a tank, and he was it wasn't a Western bear, it was in Quebec, but he squared like 5'2".
yeah,
But he had a 19-inch like skull, and
still a 19-inch skull. A 19-inch skull is still about a 6-foot bear is going to be around the 19-inch, 20-inch skull.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, to target those bears, number one, we go early. And the main reason we go early is because we know that we are hunting very limited country. The snow is isolating those bears, is concentrating, I guess is a better word, is concentrating the bears in a smaller footprint. So think about it. We got snow at 5,000 feet. So we eliminate every elevation above 5,000 feet. Do you know how much country that is? That's a lot of country that you just, remember what I said earlier about eliminating country?
Mm-hmm.
So on April 15th,
your unit just got smaller.
We just halved that unit or more.
Mm-hmm.
So we eliminate everything above 5,000. We also eliminate virtually every other slope orientation. Nothing but southern facing. And then we start hunting the steeper slopes. You're talking about extreme terrain isolation. There's only so much country that meets the steepness requirement, the slope orientation requirement, and the right elevation zone below that snow melt, that 750 feet to 1,500 feet. You've got a footprint to look at. You've only got so much country. That's it. And we know that those big bears, those giants are in that zone, they're in that realm. So we might go on April 15th. I'm telling you, we might not see a bear for 5 freaking days because half the damn bears are not even out of hibernation yet. But on day 6, we got the Megatron sitting over there. Yeah. So you got to decide if you just want to kill a bear, any bear, that's probably not the time to go because half the bears aren't even out yet. And if you're looking for just to get a bear, which most guys are, but you asked me the question, if you're going after the megas, we call them megas. If you're going after the megas, that's when we go. Or we go third season and we call them, but we only call in thick areas. We don't want to go to open slope areas because open slope areas, they're susceptible to spot and stalk. So during the early seasons, they get killed off with guys driving roads. They get with guys backpack hunting. If you can glass a lot, it's hard to kill a giant bear because people can see the bear. It's open. So think about a mature bear. You're talking about a 13, 15-year-old bear. That's a lot of seasons to make it through, right?
It's a smart animal.
Why do you think we pack in 15, 17, 18 miles in sometimes for bears? People look at us like, so we went on my first bear hunt with Lampers. We went 17 some miles in, 2 days to get in, 2 days to get out. Oh, almost 5 days just to get in and out. 7 river crossings. Nobody does that. Nobody.
It's such a grind because it's like you go all day and it's like we're still not hunting.
But we stopped at the midway point, right? And we went over this little basin. We literally were sitting there 2 minutes. There's bears, and I'm like, whoa. Rand Lambers is like, oh no, we're not staying. I'm like, Brian, we got bears right here.
Teasing me. Yeah.
Like, those aren't big bears. Those are little bears. We don't want those. So we get up, pack up the next morning. We go, and we did kill some mega bears. And But so when you think about a mature bear, right, you're talking about double and even triple the life span of an elk. So
Think about that. Yeah.
nobody thinks about it like that, right? Now there's less bear hunters, so they do have more chance. But think about how bears are hunted. They're baited. They're run with dogs in some states. But to kill true giants, we go early using the parameters I said, or we go late in areas that are not very glassable, so the bears can live to maturity without a lot of pressure, without a lot of chance of being killed. And so you can kill some pretty dang big bears like that. And so anyway, that's kind of the two methods that I would do for a big bear.
Love it.
Okay, man.
All right, Mark. I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Well, thanks for having me on. That was a good one.
Yeah, I do want to make sure we plug everything you got going on because you got a ton of great content. Everybody listening, Mark is just a guy. He's just one of those guys that doesn't half-ass anything. Like in his previous life, he was a Ironman triathlete. I don't even know the proper terms, but
you're close enough. I want to tell you real quick. My biggest regret in my life. This is not really true, but one of my biggest regrets was that I didn't meet Lampers when I was in my 30s doing Ironmans, because there's nothing I would have liked better than to pound his ass up some of these mountains, right? So I meet Lampers when I'm older, and he's just killing me, right? Oh, if I could have met him in my 30s, I would have just enjoyed every second of punishing him to no end. But I had to put that out there.
Oh, that's funny. That's hilarious. But point being, he translates that all over to his hunting. That speaks for itself. And then also to all the content and resources he puts out. So, Mark, you got all your social platforms and now this Thrive podcast by Peaks. If you want to mention that, then obviously your e-scouting courses, which we didn't even get into that. I've watched some of the videos, but all that stuff.
I'm not very good self-promoter, so I'm just going to say this. So I just redid my website just in the last couple weeks. We kind of redid everything. And I put everything that I have available, from all my free content, every podcast I've ever been on, 150 some podcasts are now organized on my website in an archive. So as soon as this one comes out, it'll be there as well. And all my Thrive episodes are there as well. All of my courses are there, llama rentals, everything is there. So you used to have to go 3 or 4 places to get to kind of the stuff that I was doing. But now you can go to treelineacademy.net and you can see the vodcast, the new vodcast link, shows you all the episodes and what they're about and blah, blah, blah. It's got all the podcasts I've ever been on or chronicled there as well, plus all the courses and all my free courses, all the paid courses, all the stuff. So and then on I do Facebook, but mainly Instagram is Treeline Pursuits. So if you remember Treeline Pursuits for Instagram and you remember treelineacademy.net, that's pretty much all you got to remember.
There you go. All right. Thanks again, Mark, for hopping on. Everybody go check out his stuff. And thanks for listening. And we will catch you on the next one.
Okay, man. Hey, good luck this season, too.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, guys. See ya. Hey, if you liked that episode, please share it with a friend, share it on your story, and give the podcast a rating and a review on wherever you listen. For more of this type of content, you can head over to the YouTube channel and follow along on all the social platforms. Really appreciate it. See you on the mountain.